everyone. This is Power N Blaso, Power N Black Artists Speaking Out. My name is Tia, and today I will be interviewing 5 amazing guests. And together, we are going to be talking about toxic masculinity. Before we get started, I would like you guys all to kind of introduce yourselves. So let's start with Jonah.
Hi, I'm Jonah Hodari. I'm 17. I'm a senior at the Appomattox Regional Governor's School for the Arts. I do dance training at the School of Film Ballet, and I really like theater and film.
Hello, I'm Sean. I'm 21, and I'm a senior at VCU Arts. I'm in graphic design. And I use all pronouns.
I'm Kamari. I'm a freshman at Georgia State. I'm majoring in computer science, and I also do music. Oh, and I'm 18.
Hey, my name is Jett Williams. I'm a freshman at Longwood University. I'm an assistant manager for Cutco, and I'm super into comics.
Hey, I'm Jordan. I'm 16, a junior at Appomattox Regional Governor's School, and I'm a music major.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for being here. We're here to talk about toxic masculinity. So with that, let's dive into the topic. What are some stereotypes you believe have distorted the image of Black masculinity?
I guess, if I understood the question correctly, that we don't cry, or that we don't have many emotions, that we don't show our emotions. I feel like that's what the question was asking.
Yeah, I feel like one of the big stereotypes is not even that we don't show emotions, but almost that we don't even have that we don't have those, that we're not capable of feeling emotions besides just being these tough people. I don't know, and that we are supposed to exude this. We're supposed to make people fear us almost in a way. We should be feared. I think that that's a really big stereotype, and I also believe it's super hurtful for, Black men.
I agree with all of what you guys just said. And in addition to that, it's having ideas like that keep us from having meaningful connections with other men. And we solely depend on the women in our lives to provide that type of insight into those emotions. And it's kind of unhealthy to not have good relationships with other men, being able to express those emotions, because it just leads to you bottling them up and unloading them on someone, a woman most likely, who doesn't really have the mental capacity to deal with that.
Right. That the effect that toxic masculinity has on men is it's a large effect, but also the effect that it has on women, and then most specifically Black women, because when we think about it, Black women are always here for us, Black men. They're always there. They're always fighting for us. But then at the same time, when you turn around, Black men aren't always there for Black women in that same way. And a big example of that is you could look to racism. With racism, you see how Black women are so willing to fight for Black men, but then when you turn that around, that's not always exuded back. And I think a large portion of that is toxic masculinity, because these ideas and these stereotypes that are projected on Black men are forcing and pressure, well, not forcing, but they're pressuring some people to, abuse Black women, and to just, I don't know, they do horrible things. And I think that is a result of it.
And I've seen this suppression of emotion that comes from toxic masculinity. I've seen it manifest into a resentment for women in a certain way where it turns into that violence, just like I've seen in like adults and like peers, where it's like they're angry that they can't express the emotions that they're able to, or just like it becomes like they're more mad at women than anything else. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Also that like queerness is a white construct and like isn't present in the Black community. Yeah. And so like people, like the Black men in my family will always like contribute it to like being around too many white people, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely still like a stigma around, well, like there's still like a stigma socially around LGBTQ, but definitely in the Black community, I still see a lot of it at another level.
Yeah, it's like this fear of femininity, that like femininity encroaches upon like manhood in some fashion. So in a way, like we should fear it, but so like to like the hyper masculine people, and there's nothing wrong with being masculine, which I think some people get that confused. Like when people talk about toxic masculinity, that like people are saying like that being masculine is bad, but like being masculine itself is not bad, because being feminine, I mean, being feminine is not bad. But I saw in like a YouTube video, it was this guy, and he was just so misogynistic and like hateful and like towards people in the LGBTQ community. He would call them just these like really terrible things and like say that they're like gonna be like the downfall of like humans, and that like it was like this really horrible like distorted image and perception of the world, just like this utter like delusion that he was in. And it, I think it stemmed from like this super huge fear of femininity, and it was like that's extremely dangerous and like hurtful, just it to men but also to women, and just to, it's hurtful to everybody.
And I think there was a big failure in a lot of people's upbringings in making them think that only men are masculine, only women are feminine, when in actuality, we all have a mixture of both masculine and feminine energies. And some people just choose to embrace the feminine energy a little more than the masculine, which is fine. And I think we need to teach everyone that that's okay. And that's something that shouldn't be ashamed of. And femininity shouldn't be feared. It should actually be embraced, because helping us share our emotions, having those connections with other guys and not just the women in our lives, will help us understand and come to terms with who we are as a person and who we are as a gender or construct.
Right.
This is kind of in the same topic, but just a little different. One thing that's really bad about toxic masculinity is that it makes a lot of dudes fear any even type of contact with other men or boys. Like if you try to hug one of your friends or something, maybe that's a dude. A lot of dudes, especially Black dudes, you get a weird look for them, weird look from them. And that's just been a thing I've always seen.
Yeah, and I don't know, I kind of feel like that just makes it harder for people to share their emotions. Do you guys believe that Black men have a safe space to share their emotions?
In general, it's usually the Black women that are the safe space for Black men, because like Kamari was saying, they're always there for us, most notably when it comes to racism, but it's never I won't say never, but it's hardly reciprocal in the same way that women are there for us, that we're there for them when they need it. I think what we should be asking is, do we have a safe space with other Black men as opposed to women? Because we do have safe spaces, but it's coming to a point where it's not being reciprocated the same way. And I'm wondering if we have that same safe space with Black men, it'll help us recognize what we need to do better and how we can improve altogether.
I was going to say the exact same thing, where I feel like there is a safe space, but I don't feel like it's with each other to help each other overcome these barriers that have been placed in front of us. I feel like it's more like finding that safety in other people and other groups. And I feel like there's a positive and a negative side to that solution. But I feel like there is like progress happening socially. But yeah, I don't feel like there's one just for us.
I feel like there's definitely like progress being made, and like more men are seeing that like being vulnerable is not a bad thing. Like being vulnerable is a very good thing, and it's helpful to a lot of people to be vulnerable because it's not bottling up those emotions, which result in like anger and rage and like really bad things like that.
Since I've gotten to Richmond and like made a group of friends, I've had a lot of queer Black friends who are men. And like one thing that was really refreshing is we were able to cultivate a space where, I mean, it wasn't all queer Black men too. Like I have straight male friends and stuff who would also like engage in that sort of like sharing space and like being there for each other, and not in like an awkward way or like a therapy group way, just in like a good friendship way. Yeah, so I feel like it's definitely possible to cultivate that space if you want to.
Yeah, I think that's like a big part, like what you said, like if you want to is definitely like the biggest thing. Because there's people out there that are willing to, you know, be there for each other, but you have to want that. And there's people who want that for you, but if you don't want it for yourself, then you know you're pushing those people away. And the way that you push those people away could be different ways. It could be violent, or you could just try to distance yourselves by just, you know, not talking to people and things like that. But I think that if people realize that people want to be there for them, then they will feel more willing to like open up and realize that it's not such a bad thing.
Something we can realize is that with our friends, we can cultivate a lot better and closer friendship if we do open up to emotions and having safe spaces with them. Because I know recently I've been putting a lot more effort into my guy friends, telling them I love them without adding no homo, because saying no homo is probably one of the most underrated parts of toxic masculinity. And I feel like just saying no homo undercuts everything that comes before it, unless, you know, obviously you're joking around. But when you're honestly being emotional with them, telling you love them, you shouldn't be adding no homo. You should just say it and mean it. And you should also be open to hugging your guy friends as well. I'm trying to help normalize that within our community. And I can see it's being more widespread than before I was trying to initiate it, because I guess we're just waiting for the one person to say it's okay and that they won't be judged for it. And then we can go ahead and go on with our lives acting as if it is normal, because it is.
Yeah, like some people can realize that like they need the help, like they want to progress, but they might not know how to do that, or they may not want to be the one to initiate that process. So having that one person that really like pushes the boundary could be really helpful in many friend groups.
Yes, and to you guys, what does it mean to be a man? It's a pretty cliche question, but I still really want to know. To you guys, what does that mean?
Well, I'm gonna say what is commonly known as like man up, be a man, where it's like you need to provide, you need to sort of have a wall, you need to be strong, you need to be vaguely aggressive or very aggressive. And I feel like being a man is more about, I'll say, being honest and yes, providing, but not making it feel like you're the only person who can do anything. Because I feel like that's a really big part that comes with like this whole like toxic masculinity, where it's like you are in power, you are the one that does the things, and you don't need help. And that's a really big problem, where it's like you don't need any help. That's a very big stigma. Comes with it.
Right. I think that I don't want to like there are definitely people who want like that figure of like someone who provides, but I think that that's like often something that people miss. Like you can be someone who provides, but also realize that nobody is superior to you and nobody's inferior to you. And I think like that's a big thing, because some women want, you know, men to provide. Some men want another man that provides for them, you know, and is that providing figure. But also at the same time, there are men who want like, oh, like I provide, but like we can provide for each other. Like it can be like more of like this thing where I don't know, I don't want to say equal, because just because like a woman wants a man to be that figure like that is providing and like protecting, that doesn't mean that things aren't equal, because ultimately I think it's like a balance with everything. Like no matter how somebody wants their relationship to look, or what um roles they want to, you know, have in a relationship, I think that there's a balance between it all. Like there's going to be certain things that like I can do in a relationship that like my partner can't do, and vice versa. And I think that a big part of toxic masculinity is that the thing is like they don't realize that you can do like the certain things, like you can be that provider and not have to have the wall up, like you said. You don't have to be not vulnerable. You can still be vulnerable. And like a big thing is you can realize that you're not superior over anybody and nobody is superior to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just feel like being a man is being there for people who need your help. If you can help, taking lead, but also recognizing that sometimes you're not just going to be the leader. You got to step back and realize someone else has to take the spotlight for once. And you've also got to recognize when you're in the wrong, take responsibility for your actions, and move forward in a way that you would want to be treated. So that's similar for everybody, but I just feel like that's the way that I view myself should act as a man.
To me personally, being a man just means being confident and for the most part just keeping your word. Like those are the two main things for me.
Do you guys believe that toxic masculinity exists? And if so, what does toxic masculinity mean to you?
I think that it does exist and it's very prevalent. And it's sort of like this stigma against male emotion or vulnerability or expression, sort of forcing upon certain expectations for what a man should be, or how someone should grow up and act in society in a way. And I feel like it really does manifest in your youth for the most part. It comes to like raising your kids, and also there's a social aspect, but also a media aspect of like how men are portrayed in the media. So there are many things that contribute to toxic masculinity.
For me, it's sort of like it's like a rigid set of rules that you're meant to follow. Like that's how it's always manifested in my life. So it's incredibly like controlling and confining, and like engaging in toxic masculinity only, I mean, it hurts yourself and others around you because you're not letting yourself fully fulfill the whole of who you could be, because there are parts of you that you cut off in order to like conform to that idea.
I couldn't have said it better myself with both of those definitions, but I also think toxic masculinity presents itself in ways that many people don't even consider, like the light skin versus dark skin debate. That's pretty toxic masculinity because you're assuming that the dark skin guy is going to be more masculine than the light skin guy, which is only reinforcing those stereotypes. And it's also in how we raise our daughters as well. If you look at a lot of Black households, and you'll see this on Twitter or Instagram, you see a lot of Black daughters talking about how they clean up after dinner while the sons are sitting around playing video games, watching TV, not doing anything. And I feel like it's more than just conditioning the guys, but it's also conditioning the girls as well, telling them that this is how it's supposed to be. You guys do this, you guys do that. And it can also build a lot of resentment in the women as well, which is why I think we have a lot of the attitudes of distaste towards men. And I feel like there is a lot that we do that contributes to that. But I feel like a lot of that can also come from the way they were raised and seeing that their brothers or fathers had to do less than they did in the household.
Definitely.
Right. I definitely think it's a big part of like how you're raised, because if you have men figures in your life that are trying to force you to be something that you're not, that's extremely hurtful, you know, to you and also to like your family members and your friends because of like the behavior that that will bring out of you. I'm like super thankful that like the family that I have and like the people that I'm surrounded by allow me just to be me, and they don't try to place me in a box. But sadly for like a lot of people, that's not true. And I think that to tackle really toxic masculinity, we're going to have to attack it from a lot of different areas and a lot of different angles. But I think one of the biggest ones will be like how people parent their children. Like these big issues stem from how these different generations are taught things. Like us, hopefully for our generation, it'll get a lot better since we can have conversations like this, conversations that aren't usually had about these types of things. And it's like when we go on to have kids of our own, and when we go on to start that next generation, we will be a whole lot more mindful about what we are teaching them, and like the way that it won't be like, oh, men, you can play after dinner. You don't have to help clean up or anything like that, or whatever the roles that we're assigning is. We won't have to place people in these boxes and say, you're a man, this is how you should act, and like you're a woman, this is how you should act. And we don't have to do that. And I think that will be a big part in tackling it.
Awesome. And last question, what do you guys believe that we can do, you can do in your everyday lives to kind of like break this, I don't know, gross stigma of what men should be, around our friends?
Something I always try to do whenever it comes up is correcting my friends when they act on homophobic behaviors or say something homophobic, maybe say a word that, shouldn't be said to describe or said at all by someone who isn't part of the LGBT community. And also just, emphasizing the fact that associating gay with something that you don't like is harmful, and it just reinforces those stereotypes. And you should just, call people out on their behaviors and teach them to be better, because in a lot of ways it's just what they grew up with and what they know. And if they know better, they do better. So always call it out in a way that you'd want to be called out as well.
Yes, I completely agree. Calling out the injustices like homophobia and misogyny that you see in your environment, and also being the initiator in your friend group, being the person who breaks the norm and says, I love you, gives affirmations to your friend group, things like that.
Yeah, with my male family members, I try to be like very, like I try to confirm their emotions whenever they do share it with me, because it's not very often, and then usually it's like something that like they like trail off or something. But I try to like be like supportive in them sharing their emotions, because I really want to know like how they're actually feeling, more than just like a how are you good type of situation. And then trying to like uplift voices or not speak over, and being very aware of when you're trying to like take a leadership role when you're in like a group of women, or if you're in like a class, and like you hear one of your female friends being like talked over, or even if you're not friends, just trying to like not take over the leadership role, I guess, because I mean, with me, I'm very masculine looking, I'm very tall and like have a medium to deep voice, so sometimes I can be heard over my female friends, and so I try to be like, oh, so what did you say, like can you say that again so everyone can hear it. Or also, if you're walking down the street with your friend and they're getting harassed, like don't just like be silent and awkward and walk away. Like, yeah, just extending up for what you said, misogyny and homophobia and all of that within like your circle is like a good step in the right direction for sure.
I completely agree with that. In my religions class, we were like studying this thing. We studied like the Black church, and there's like a lot of stuff that you could talk about like with toxic masculinity in the Black church. But like the thing that I want to talk about is like this thing called womanist theology, and it's like what women created that Black men just basically kind of didn't give to them. And it's like they found a way to empower themselves by just being able to acknowledge, their hardships and like the oppression that they face and stuff. And it's like that to me is like that's really powerful. And I think that we have to be that for each other. We have to start doing that. Like it's wonderful like that these different groups like can create something like that and have that. And I think that another good step just in the right direction is just making sure like, oh, like that's what they have, and they created that because they needed that. And it's like they're showing us that they need that type of thing. We have to be there for, we just all have to be there for each other.
I agree with what all of y'all said so far. And I do think another way to get rid of toxic masculinity, or at least help get rid of it, is just having more of these conversations and being more open about our emotions. I mean, yeah, it's not really easy with all these stereotypes and rules we grow up being shoved down our throat, but it can be lying.
Amazing. And that does conclude our interview. Thank you guys so much for being here. It really means a lot. Thank you for opening up and for just being open. Again, everyone, this is Power N Blaso, Power N Black Artists Speaking Out. Bye.